Russia acknowledged its forces had fallen back north of the ruined eastern city in a retreat the head of Russia's Wagner private army called a rout. Ukraine forces are advancing along parts of the front line against Russian troops near the war-torn eastern town of Bakhmut. Our soldiers are moving forward in some areas of the front, and the enemy is losing equipment and manpower, Oleksandr Syrsky, commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, said on social media. The defensive operation in the Bakhmut direction continues. Russia acknowledged on Friday its forces had fallen back north of Ukraine's ruined eastern city in a retreat the head of Russia's Wagner private army called a rout, not a regrouping. In its latest bulletin, Russia's defense ministry said its forces gained control over another block in Bakhmut. The units of the airborne forces provided support to the assault units and pinned down the enemy on the flanks, it said. The ministry often uses the term assault units to denote the Wagner private militia, which has been spearheading the assault on Bakhmut at great cost in casualties. Meanwhile, videos that were uploaded to Russian social media showed what appeared to be a helicopter being shot down over Russia's Bryansk area, which borders Ukraine. According to an emergency services official quoted by the state news agency TASS, preliminary evidence suggested the engine caught fire prior to the collision in Klincy, which is about 40 kilometers, 25 miles, from the border. On the other hand, a video uploaded to the pro-war Russian Telegram account Voyeny Osvedomitel showed a helicopter bursting in the sky before falling to ground in flames. A Russian Su-34 warplane also crashed in Bryansk, TASS reported. It was unclear what brought it down. Russia said Ukraine used British-made long-range missiles to target civilian sites in the eastern Ukrainian city of Luhansk, wounding 6 children. The United Kingdom on Thursday became the first country to supply Kyiv with long-range cruise missiles, which will allow it to hit Russian troops and supply dumps far behind the front lines. Storm Shadow air-to-air missiles supplied to the Kyiv regime by Great Britain were used for the strike, despite London's declarations that these weapons would not be used against civilian targets, Russia's defense ministry said. It added Russia downed 2 Ukrainian aircraft, an Su-24 and a MiG-29, that launched the missiles. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, arrived in Rome on Saturday to meet with Pope Francis. The Pope declined to provide more information when asked about the Vatican's involvement in a peace mission to try to put an end to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine in April. Moscow and Kyiv both at the moment publicly expressed amazement at his remarks. Zelensky will be making his first journey to Italy since February 24, 2022, when Russia began its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Zelensky met with the heads of state of the Nordic countries in Finland earlier in the month. He also traveled to the Netherlands, where he spoke at the World Forum among other things. Before traveling to the Vatican in Italy, he is scheduled to have separate meetings with President Sergio Mattarella and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Before going to Germany, he is also anticipated to appear as a guest on a well-known Italian television chat program. Germany's defense ministry said the country is preparing a new weapons package for Ukraine worth €2.7 billion, $2.9 billion, reportedly Berlin's largest since Russia invaded last year. Kyiv said the massive new weapons package was another sign that Russia would lose its war against Ukraine. States declare large defense aid packages for Ukraine, said Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to Zelensky. The aid indicated Russia was bound to lose and sit on the bench of historical shame, he said. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said he discussed the next weapons supplies with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. I paid close attention to the importance of providing Ukraine with F-16s and steps necessary to begin training of Ukrainian pilots. The Pope meeting is anticipated to be the highlight of Zelensky's visit to Italy. The two have spoken on the phone numerous times since the war started. He previously met the pontiff in 2020 at the Vatican. The Pope initially attempted to be a mediator by adopting a moderate stance, but he eventually started vehemently denouncing Russia's activities and drawing comparisons to some of the worst crimes committed against Ukraine during the Soviet era. Francis met this week with Alexander Avdiev, the departing Russian ambassador to the Vatican. According to the Italian newspaper Il Messaggero, the Vatican may have given the envoy a letter addressed to Vladimir Putin. Francis has constantly stated his desire to mediate disputes between Kyiv and Moscow and has repeatedly called for peace. his proposal hasn't resulted to any significant progress to date. Zelensky and his group have been pressing world leaders to host a global peace summit based on the 10-point Kiev peace plan. The restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity, the departure of Russian forces, and an end to hostilities are demanded. Zelensky has reaffirmed time and time again that the plan is not negotiable.